Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Canada Gold webinar. Today, we'll be talking about our new Polaris project in northwestern British Columbia near Atlan, BC. Presenting today is CEO and Director Scott Eldridge. How are you today, Scott?
Excellent, Knox. How are you?
Great. And Troy, how are you? I see you've got your mic off.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks, Knox.
Excellent. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll have Scott kind of give everybody a quick overview of the company, just to remind a lot of people, but I'm sure everybody's pretty up to speed on the story. And then later on, Troy will delve into the drilling program and some of the geology. And then at the end, we'll take some questions. So with that, I'm going to stop my share here and pass the baton to you, Scott.
Welcome, everyone, and appreciate you listening in today for more of an exploration update rather than an actual corporate presentation. And the reason for this webinar, of course, is to chat more about the news release that hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look at this morning. So Troy and I will probably speak for about 20-25 minutes. We'll try and keep it on point and concise. And then we'll definitely open up the floor to Q&A at the end. And I'll just draw your attention to our standard cautionary note, as we may be making some forward-looking statements during today's webinar. So just to lay a foundation to the news release that, again, hopefully people have had an opportunity to at least scan this morning. Back in May, we commenced the 24,000 meter program at our new Polaris project in British Columbia. This is a past producing high grade gold mine. And as I said, in May, we commenced this drill program, 2 rigs on the site, fully staffed 20-person camp. The drilling itself will carry through to October, November. And if you've had an opportunity to see some of our results, which began sort of in early July, any results that we've put out until today have been infill holes. And the primary objective of the current drilling is to tighten up the drill spacing on our inferred category, galvanize our inferred, strengthen it, and move it up to indicated. But today actually marks a new chapter for a new Polaris, where today's results do not fall under the category of infill. They fall more under the category of blue sky potential. And we can even take that one step further to actually say resource expansion. So the headline that you would have seen today, the main result that we hit in a parallel vein or on echelon vein to the main vein, which hosts the vast majority of our resources, we published an intercept of 17 grams over just over 8 meters. And besides being a spectacular drill hole, we strongly believe that this presents an opportunity to add resources to our current 1 million ounces at 10 grams. And we'll go into much more detail on that as we proceed through the slides. So more as a refresher, and perhaps just a quick overview for those who have not heard our story, but we'll just go through the corporate info really quickly here. So we're big board listed here on the TSX in Canada. And then we have secondary listings on the OTCQB, as well as over in Frankfurt in Germany. We currently have about 71 million shares out. The 11 million warrants that you can see there are attached to the financing that we did last August, where we raised $8.4 million. Use of proceeds for that were to drill at New Polaris. That's exactly what we're doing right now. And we're currently trading at about 50 cents. So it puts our market cap at about 35 million Canadian. And we're sitting with about 2.5 in the bank. Just to briefly mention our top shareholders, Eric Sprott is our largest shareholder. Personally, he owns 10%. The Raffer Gold Fund out of London, England, as a large shareholder, as is our founder and chairman, Brad Cook. And then a few high net worth individuals out of the US and Europe. Collectively, that composes our top 6 shareholders, which control about 40% of the company. So my background, very quickly, been in the industry for 12 years. Mostly on the financial side. I started as an equity buy-side analyst. I've run my own merchant banking firm, and I've been on the issuer side now for almost the last 5 years. I joined the company about 3 years ago because of a previous relationship I had with Brad Cook, our founder and chairman. Most people know Brad is also the founder of Endeavor Silver. Gary Biles is our president and COO. He's a mine builder, mine operator, metallurgical engineer. He's done this 4 times in his career. The most notable success story on Gary's CV is Eskay Creek, where he was mine manager before the takeover. Knox Henderson, who did the introduction here, he's recently joined us as our VP Corp Dev. Many people recognize his name from Great Bear Resources and Kodiak Copper. Troy Gill is on the line with us today. He'll dive into the technical side. Troy's Australian. He spent 15 years with Rio Tinto, 2 discoveries behind his name there. And prior to Rio Tinto, he spent some time at Peak Gold Mines in Australia, an operating underground gold mine. Very briefly on the board, Deepak Malhotra, PhD metallurgist. He's our lead technical director. Martin Burion, chartered accountant, chartered business valuationist. He's our lead on corporate governance. The newest addition to our team that we're proud to have involved here is Andrew Bowering. Many people know Andy in the Vancouver and Toronto space as a mining entrepreneur. His most recent success stories include Millennial Lithium, Prime Mining, and American Lithium, and then Brad and myself on the board. So we've got the corporate stuff behind us. So let's really focus our attention here on the project and the results. So I'll just start off with a history on New Polaris as a refresher. This is a brownfield site where we saw production here during the 30s and 40s, where they recovered almost 250,000 ounces of gold at a grade of about 10 grams per ton. Fast forward to today, as I said in the intro, we have a 1 million ounce resource at 10 grams. We've wrapped a mine plan around that in terms of a preliminary economic assessment run at $1,500 gold, needless to say, significantly below the current spot price. And the numbers are very, very robust here. It's driven by the grade. This is a very high margin project. The after-tax IRR hits 56%. The NPV is over $300 million US, but with only 100 million CapEx to put it in production and a very quick after-tax payback of 2 years. So along with this drilling, our vision for the project is to advance it, de-risk it, move this forward to eventually become a mine again, which will eventually see us do a feasibility study after this drilling. Moving on to location, we're in the northwestern province, corner of the province of BC, and we access the project typically through Atlin, either by helicopter or small fixed-wing aircraft. And as you can note from this map, this is a very mining-friendly part of the world, as long as everything is done to the correct ESG standards. And that's exactly how we're proceeding, whether it's us or somebody else. We'd like to see this become a mine again. We're trying to spend our time here on geology. So at a very high level, this is a mesothermal gold vein deposit, not common for British Columbia. However, I would point out our neighbor on the Alaskan side, Kensington, is an operating mesothermal system, actually making pretty good margin at 6 grams, whereas we're at 10 grams. Some similarities between us and them. But typically you would see these types of deposits in the Red Lake camp of Ontario. Most people are familiar with our current resource. As I said, combined, we're sitting at about 1 million ounces. And important to note here is that these grades already have a 20% mining dilution rate factored in. So this represents the head grade to the mill. And as I pointed out in the introduction, the primary purpose of the drill program is infill results. So any results you've seen to date since July have all been infill holes. But again, today sort of marks a new chapter for us, where we're now talking about the blue sky potential, where we're looking to add ounces to the current base case of 1 million ounces. So at this point, I'm gonna pass the mic over to Troy Gill, our VP Exploration. Troy, if you just want to start with the plan map here.
Sure thing. Thanks, Scott. So everyone, if you've seen the news release, you would have seen this map as well. But just to cover where these drill holes are coming from, you can see where we're drilling just off to the east of the old mine workings and our airstrip. All the old previous drilling, which is all Cannagold drilling from surface, shown as the little X marks. And the first thing you'll notice is that all of our planned drilling for this year and completed drill holes are kind of towards the southern end of that previous drill pattern. And that's because with the deposit dipping to the south or the bottom of the map, we're drilling into some of the deeper parts to try and prove them up, again, from that inferred status to at least indicated status as a resource goes. So the holes we're reporting on today, shown in a pink color there, and we'll probably move on to the section now, Scott. This sort of covers, looking back at the previous news release of a section to give you a taste again of the sorts of results we see on the C-West main, which is our main focus of the infill drilling, where there's grades anywhere there from 12 grams over our average mining width of 3 meters, 15 grams over 13 meters, which is quite a width, and we see that sort of extent on the C-West main quite regularly, up to grades like 24 meters over 6.6, which is quite a sturdy, robust sort of number to be getting. And these results came from early on in the drilling, right in the core of the C-West main deposit and resource, and they're really going to be a mainstay of taking this resource to the next level and onwards to the feasibility study. Now, if we move to today's section, little different focus here, as Scott's already introduced. We're not only releasing new results on the C-West main, which again we're seeing spectacular results that we expect and hope for to steady up the resource, but also it's the first time in this infill drill program that we've been able to report a significant grade and width over another parallel vein higher up in the system. So let me just go over a little historical exploration context to these results. Since the 90s and the drilling concentrating on the C vein system at New Polaris, it was always noted in the logging of the drill holes that there was a series of veins stacked or on echelon, if you like, down the drill holes, and they were just numbered from C1 through to C12. And it was the C11 vein that was seeing the most developed mineralization and good grades over good widths that became known as the C-West main, and part of the deposit, the resource, that was eventually drilled to a level in 2006. And we're doing the infill drilling based on that resource. However, there were instances where the other veins, there was some mineralization and they were often sampled. However, nothing to the extent where there was a geological model interpretation put on those veins. And again, in our infill drilling program, this is the first time we've seen results at this sort of level where we can put out results that are very consistent and we can start to do an interpretation around. And you've come up with numbers that look very similar to what we're seeing on the C-West main, like 17 grams over 8.4 meters is well within the mining parameters of the current PEA and could someday contribute to the resource there, as much as 7.25 grams over 4.3 meters. And when you combine those with previous results from other drill holes, you know, that we're also seeing C-West main type grades, 13 grams over 4 meters just about. You know, when you see that sort of consistency, you can start to do an interpretation and things start to come together. So this is a really great result, and as Scott puts it, it's opening a new chapter for the resource going forward to a feasibility study at New Polaris, and not only including the C-West main, but also parallel features that we see during the drilling. So at this stage, Scott, I'm not sure if you'd like us to dive in and take a look at exactly where those results come from.
Sure, so let me do my stop share and I'll pass the host control to you. So we're going to take an opportunity here to view Troy's 3D imaging software called Discovery. And it wraps a lot of what we're seeing here on 2D slides into a 3-dimensional picture, just to give you a more accurate depiction of exactly what we're describing here. So let me know if you have the control there, Troy.
Yes. And I just want to select it as a window so that everyone can see.
Yeah, we can see it. Troy.
Excellent. Okay, so yeah, why not? Let's dive right in and take a look at the geological model. We're already underground here at New Polaris, and if people can see my mouse pointer as well, I'm not sure if that that can define the Seawest Main as the large yellow body in the middle of the screen there. And just to point out that you can see all the infill drill holes that have historically been drilled, as well as including those we have results on currently for this infill drill program. And it just paints a picture of the higher levels of the Seawest Main. That triangulation of the interpreted solid model is getting tighter and tighter. That tells us we've got more and more data points, pierce points through the Seawest Main, and hopefully building our confidence in the resource. And you can also see towards the bottom end, there's a little work to go, and a lot of that area will be covered within the rest of this infill program up until about November this year. A couple of other features to the east here, you can see the other veins. They're just named the C East high vein and low vein, and they're on the other side of what's called the number 1 fault, which is a very simple fault structure that cuts down through the east side of the Seawest Main. And then on the west side is a much younger felsic dike that's cut through the Seawest Main as well. And one of the interesting things that it contributes, it's very late, it's not actually part of the mineralizing event per se, but around the area in the northwest, it does have a heating effect on the Seawest Main. The gold is mostly very fine grain. It brings some of that gold out and redeposits it as some visible gold. And we've actually seen a number of drill holes in that area come back with visible gold this infill program this year. So that's always encouraging to see. You don't always believe what's there until you get the assay result from the lab. And of course, it's been very busy at the labs this year. We're sort of getting results in a steady flow, but slowly. So the focus of today, where we're looking at, is down here in the southeast quadrant of the Seawest Main at about the 300 to 400 meter level. And if we zoom in, and I'll try and center us a little to get a good picture, you can see the results just as a bar, color bar down each drill hole. And the ones we're focusing on are the red in these holes around this area. So perhaps if I just draw a quick shape around those to give you the idea, and it is a bit of a quirky shape for sure. It's only 5 drill holes we're trying to piece together here. So don't be too alarmed at that at this stage. You can see from the cross-section interpretation that we expect these results to terminate and the body of the C10 vein to terminate against the number 1 fault to the north. So where does that leave us to grow a resource from these intervals? Well, let me just put in green, oops, the infill holes to date that we have drilled, but unfortunately we don't have any results on yet. But we have logged these holes. So you can see this hole just here, and there is actually another couple over here that should be showing how C10 vein will grow down dip. And that's where most of the potential is. To give you some idea of scale, this western edge is about 100 meters long. And so it's about 50 meters across already or so. So these 3 holes that we've visually observed the same mineralization in, but unfortunately we don't have any assay results yet. They're taking it another 25 and then 50 meters to the south down dip already. So we're quite optimistic that we'll see this C10 body grow in size in that direction. You can already tell off to the west that there are a lot of previous drill holes infilling there, and we're not seeing the level of gold in the C10 vein. So the potential to grow it out to the west, unfortunately, is limited. There's still plenty of scope to infill the area off to the number 1 fault on the eastern side. And so that brings us to potential of further drilling, if I put the planned drill holes, and maybe I need to sort of step out a little, bring that back to center, you can see there's already a couple of drill holes planned right around the body itself, which should give us more information to the west. But importantly, there's a number of drill holes that are going to drill down dip. And I can point now to one of the nearest drill holes we have down dip. And we're now talking, you know, we're down at about the 500-meter level, if I can bring it in and zoom in, where we have one other intercept on the C10. This is identified as the C10 vein, and everything in the orange, or sorry, I should say yellow to orange area should be a mineralized width that's within the grade width parameters of our resource in the PEA. So that's some pretty interesting news there. And I guess it's what we aim to step the planned drilling down to infill the gaps between what we have today as the C10 mineralization and how we could grow the resource out of that. And I guess this is sort of how you have the ability to just organically grow a resource from an infill program that's predominantly focused on obtaining more pierce points on the C-West main. But at the same time, as we drill down through this other stacked series of veins, we're going to gain more information from those as well. And, you know, an infill drill program suddenly becomes a resource growth drill program at the same time. So I guess in the months ahead, we're going to drill these holes. We're going to get the results on the holes that have been drilled and see how we can grow the C10 vein from there. So at that point, Scott, I can stop sharing that screen.
Maybe pass the baton back to Scott if you're.
Yeah. There we go. You should be host now, Scott.
Give me a few seconds here, please. Well, Troy, as we compare New Polaris to other mesothermal gold deposits in Ontario, maybe you want to add a few sentences here as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see some of these are the main ore bodies, obviously, of some of those more famous and long-lived mines over in Ontario on the Abitibi and all the way over to Red Lake. Those deposits have been mining a long time, and obviously you build the resource as you go there as well. And they're now tapping depths well over 2,000 meters. And there's good reasons for that, is that the mesothermal style of mineralization or shear zone hosted, structurally controlled, they're very deep rooted systems. And that's why they tend to have these very, very deep legs. So here we are at the C-West main, barely at a depth of 600 meters. I think that gives us all the confidence that we've still got a long way to go. And adding on to that is not only you have these old, you know, sometimes they are exhausted deposits from these regions, and new exploration eyes come along and pick up the project and discover these parallel systems on echelon veins, all related to the same mineralization, but just simply never discovered with the main mines that were operating because they were, you know, perhaps focused on what they were doing. They only drilled so far. Every drill program has a budget and can only do so much. All those things combine to, you know, new opportunities for new players. We hope to be the ones to do that within our own deposit and build resource that way, as well as looking at simply the down dip potential on the C-West main.
Sorry, my screen froze there for a sec. So just to continue on, this represents a 2D image of what Troy has gone through in the 3D. So we'll go through this slide very quickly, but I would just draw everyone's attention to some of the top drill holes that have come out of this project. So On the screen there, you can see the top 5 drill holes. And if we put today's news release in terms of the grade over width from the C10, where we have 17 grams over 8.4 meters, it's not a top 5 result, but it's probably a top 15 result that we've ever seen from this project. So I would just conclude here that, you know, with every drill hole, our enthusiasm is growing, and with every drill hole, we're increasing our confidence in this ore body. I'll briefly mention our grade. Given that we're high grade, we certainly like to boast about our grade relative to the industry. And here we sit at 10 grams per ton diluted grade, representing a grade that's 7.5 times the industry average. And we've all heard the proverb, grade is king. But to me, that's only half the story. The next question is, what about the costing side? It's great to be high grade, but are you low cost? And the answer for New Polaris is absolutely yes. Our all-in sustaining cost is half the industry average. We come in at $530 an ounce. And certainly these types of deposits are becoming more and more rare as the industry is skewed to the larger open pit production. And that's a good segue into our PEA. So we touched on this in the beginning. So again, we see this as a base case based on the 1 million ounces at 10 grams, where we've designed a mine plan here that would require a 750 ton per day mill, allowing us to produce 80,000 ounces of gold per year over an 8.5 year mine life. And again, these economics are run at $1,500 gold, approximately $300 less than the current spot. And the results from an economic analysis are very robust. Our after-tax IRR is 56%. The NPV in Canadian dollars almost touches $500 million. And the after-tax payback is less than 2 years. So certainly not a large project, but definitely one of the most robust development projects out there. And to put that into context, if we were to say, if this were a mine again, how does the grade stack up to the industry? Well, in terms of the highest grade gold mines in the world. So this would be the 6th highest grade gold mine in Canada and the 11th highest grade gold mine in the world. Moving over to our value proposition. So how do we stack up against our peers? The basic measurement is enterprise value per resource ounce in the ground. Another alternative would be PNAV. Whichever methodology you prefer, you'll come to the same result, that we are undervalued to peers. And the only way we're going to change that is to deliver at the project. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. And you've seen that with today's news release. And at this point, I think we went a few minutes longer than we anticipated, but obviously a lot to talk about here. And I think at this point, Knox, we can certainly just transition over to the Q&A side.
Sure. Actually, if anyone has any questions, just click on the Q&A button. Actually, Scott, if you don't mind passing the baton back to me, because I need to see the Q&A as the host.
Give me 1 sec, please.
And that'll give people some time to ask some questions here.
Perfect.
We might not have a lot of questions because I think Troy covered a lot that people would ask. So we'll just give it a minute. Oh, here's one. Ideally, how many ounces might the C10 add?
Well, I'll let Troy answer that, but you know, first of all, we were predicting that question, and it's premature. There's not enough information to answer that. We need to do more drilling, but we can confidently say we're in a position here where we're getting the grade over width that we need to add ounces. If there's anything else you want to add to that, Troy, go ahead.
No, that's kind of it. It's early days in terms of we have our 2 drill holes from a 47-hole program that have hit this, and you know, and it wasn't unpredicted either. We know these sorts of results are in the database from time to time. It's just that they're not currently in the resource, and there's no interpretation. So we need to drill it more to really thrash it out. And you know, I think it's more about how big can it grow. We can see that we could add another, you know, 50 meters, 100 meters of strike length, and it's always difficult to think of strike in this system. But down dip, we could certainly add 200 more meters or more to it, just with the drilling we're going to do, the results we're going to get from drilling that's already been done and the drilling we're going to do for the remainder of this program. So I think that's something to look forward to, and then we can start to put some figures once we get into the resource calculation.
Okay, this one's for you, Scott. Are you going to prepare a revised PEA? If so, when?
Yeah, we can just take a step back and talk about timelines here. So as it stands right now, the current drill program, again, it's 24,000 meters, primarily infill. That's going to wrap up in November. And at that point, we would probably do a resource update. And we're even thinking, given our location in the province, we don't encounter the same harsh winter of the Golden Triangle. So there's an opportunity to drill year round here. So it's all one step at a time, but after this drill program, we would have a resource update. Again, we're trying to accomplish the goal of moving inferred up to indicated, as we eventually want to roll into a feasibility study. But if we're discovering more ounces, you know, why put a cap on it and go into feasibility study? So, you know, I think a lot of our next steps in the pathway forward for this project are going to be driven by the drill bit. And, you know, as Troy has alluded to during his talk there, we still have 2 more assays pending from the C10, in addition to more holes that in theory should pierce the C10. So again, we're taking a step back here, and our eyes are wide open in terms of the blue sky potential versus marching this to the goal line with the feasibility study.
Okay. Follow up, you might have answered some of it. When will the current drilling program end and ETA for the results? So we're going to finish the full 24,000 meters by November, I believe.
Right. Well, the program is 24,000 meters. We're, in terms of meterage, we're at approximately 15,000. But everyone's aware that the assay labs are backed up in British Columbia, and every company drilling here is dealing with that situation. So prior to today, we had only put out 8 assays. So we've got 4 more holes out today. So we've actually only released assays on 12 out of 47 holes. So there's definitely plenty more news to come in terms of assay results.
Yeah, which should spill into the new year. Just, you know, given the
yeah, it'll spill into January for sure with the bottleneck at the labs.
And then with that in mind, will you have to raise additional capital next year?
Again, it's all one step at a time, and it's drill result dependent. But if we saw a rise in our share price and there was an opportunity, then we would be opportunistic and probably move forward with that.
Okay. Have the deeper exploration holes been drilled yet? When do you expect assays?
Troy, I don't know if you want to take that one, but the deeper holes are still being drilled right now. So we most certainly do not have the assay results. That's the simple answer. Troy, if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think that's as much as we can really say for now. Is we're still completing the drilling, and assays are getting to the lab, but unfortunately it's going to take a while before we can put out results.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously looking forward to more results in this deposit, and as Troy explained, with a mesothermal system, there's always opportunities at depth as well as with parallel veins. So as long as we're adding ounces where they come from, as long as they fit within the mine plan parameters, then we'll be very satisfied.
And just to be clear, none of the drilling in the C10 zone are in the current resource. Right?
That's correct. Yeah, there's no never been a geological model put together for any of the other veins above or below the C-West main.
And is there potential for additional resources added in other parallel zones?
Oh, well, that's a good point, actually. So again, going back to the numbering system of the veins, the whole C system, it goes from 1 to 12, and the C-West main being number 11. We have 3 historic holes, again, from the 90s, down at about the 600 meter level in the deposit that continued drilling below the C-West main to a point where they intersected the C12, and it was significantly mineralized there. So part of this infill program, as we get closer to drilling those depths around those holes, And that's also tucked away down in the southeast corner of the deposit. So we haven't gotten there yet, but we intend to extend at least a few holes around that area to see how far those sorts of intersections could extend as well. And again, drilling such an iterative process in figuring out the resource and gaining more confidence in the models, things like that, it'll take another round of drilling to get back there, rebudgeted and continue on to build any resource we come across in that region as well at that level on the C12.
Great. Well, thank you, Scott and Troy. I think you've answered these questions fully, and they were good questions. This is looking at the list. We've got a fairly sophisticated audience here. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. And yeah, lots of news ahead. And if you have any questions, give us a call, or you can email or phone me directly, and I'd be happy to answer your questions moving forward. So with that, I will end the webinar and thank everyone for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time today.
Bye now.